Is that 3 minutes or 2 hours? 3 hours?
It's 3 hours, but it's 7 minutes.
Okay, good evening everyone. So based on the situation, there is an increasing concern about global warming. So today we are going to discuss about the ways to reduce global warming in general. So for my point, I think in my opinion we should start by recycling, because it helps by reducing the energy consumed to produce new materials than producing it from scratch by using raw materials. It also reduces waste thrown into the landfill, while in turn reduces pollution that would lead to global warming. For example, recyclable materials are such as aluminum cans, glass bottles, newspapers, etc. So it could also reduce gas emission from the manufacturing factory also. So that's my point. So what do you guys think, especially candidate B?
Very good points, candidate A. In my opinion, the biggest contributor to global warming is the open burning and forest fires in recent years. So one of the best ways to prevent global warming would be to ban open burning in general. People, usually older people, they tend to burn their trash in open air because in the old days that's what they would do. Nowadays we know that this is not a very good way to get rid of trash because it has a harmful effect on the environment, contributing to global warming and making the environment in general not habitable if this happens for a long time. So banning open burning, such as telling law enforcement to tighten their patrols or making punishments harsher for people who commit open burning, should be a very good way to prevent or make global warming less of a threat in due time. Does anybody else have any points?
Might I add another point, which is happening right now, including in Kuching right now, is the implementation of public transport. Now, public transport is very much an effective way to reduce the carbon footprint of everyone that have a use for public transport. Now, carbon footprint in general is basically the amount of carbon emission emitted by a person in a specific general amount of time. Now, how does public transport help this? By using public transport, we can also reduce the amount of emissions, usually from a driver that drives a car usually to work, and reduce it by just outright not using a car and using a public transport. Of course, this requires a lot of government-mandated aids to produce such effective public transport, such as the Shinkansen in Japan. But based on data and statistics alone, the Shinkansen already reduced a significant amount of carbon footprint compared if the same amount of passengers that took the Shinkansen use a car on a yearly basis. How about you, Candidate?
Well, it is very huge topic that we're talking right now, which is the global warming, right? So I want to add on some of my point, which is the main contributor to how to reduce the global warming that I'm facing, which is we need to plant a tree. Well, it's so obvious because of the tree that we are planting in nearby or inside the urban area is very crucial to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that are produced within the cities. We all know that the transportation and also the open burning produce carbon dioxide that can lead to the thinner, our own ozone layer to be thin and more thinner, which can affect of a lot of things, which is having an effect of the albedo effect, and also the amount of the oxygen around us will be also be increased. Moreover, in planting trees simply maybe the easiest way to reduce the global warming nowadays. How do you guys think?
So, in my opinion, I agree with your opinion about the planting trees. As you may know, from a few years back, there's a YouTuber known as Mr. Beast that held a campaign called Team Trees, which helps by planting trees every time they get a donation. But in donation, especially for other countries that are trying to help, over the years it has helped lower the global warming significantly. And speaking of trees, I got another point coming up, that is by control logging. So as you may know, trees, wood in general is a very important material for us to make apartments, to make furnitures, etc. So most of the time there have been a lot of cases about people generally cutting down trees illegally in the woods, which is illegal by the way, and should be stopped as soon as possible. So government also should control their logging activities so it does not damage the environment in due time. So do you guys agree with my opinion?
Candidly, you make very good points, but in my opinion, planting trees is not a very good way to prevent global warming. This is due to the fact that planting trees will take an extended amount of time for the effect to actually be substantial. So controlling logging would be a much better use of our efforts. So instead of planting new trees and waiting 10, 20 years for them to grow, we should make an effort to make sure that trees that we already have aren't all cut down so that we don't have as much CO2 emissions, we don't have as much CO2 in the air, because there's enough trees to change it, convert it to oxygen, and make sure the cycle doesn't have excess CO2 thinning our ozone layer. Anybody else have anything to add?
I wanted to add a little bit on not exactly the same point you guys are adding, but more so an extension of my points. Basically, you guys mentioned which is control, basically a more control and a more stricter regulation on logging and maintenance. Now, I want to touch a bit on this because even though it is very much a big problem, we can't really ignore that logging is very much a big part of Malaysia's export, including in craft, in furniture, or even in infrastructure. Now, what I do propose is better incorporation of public transport in already existing roads. So we don't need to rely on logging as much because I rephrase that. Okay, we don't need to rely on logging as much by incorporating this type of initiative towards stricter regulation towards illegal logging. What you can think?
To be honest, that's a fair point for Malaysian because we're such in the development of a country which can lead to a lot of illegal deforestation, and we want to expand our land to create a new environment for other people to build their own house, but we can find a new way, and also we can develop a new place, or I mean an old place such as like the Kuching area. There's some part in Sarawak, we can say that in this we maybe want to develop in the Muka area, and also some in the Sibu, and also the Kapit part. We doesn't need to like deforest or even cut down a lot of tree to open a new space for people to move inside the cities. And that's supporting the one's idea and the candidate C's idea.
So, do we all agree that by control logging we could most effectively reduce the global warming?
I do believe that some of us have different opinions, but overall, majority-wise, we all believe that it is probably the biggest and the most complicated factor in tackling global warming, not just in Malaysia, but anywhere really.
As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
Yes.
Well, logging is a big part, but in Malaysia specifically, public transportation would be the second biggest.
Yeah.
Because there's an immediate effect, right? We're talking about cause and effect here. There's an immediate effect for using more public transportation. But yes, overall, if we stop cutting trees, then we'll stop hurting the earth with too much carbon dioxide emissions.
Right.
That's true. We can see that also right now, such as very much in Kota Samarahan, where the implementation of trams in transport, which significantly reduces the amount of conventional vehicle use, such as from going to work or sending students from different part of the state to Unimas right now. Implementation of that is a very good way of not just destroying already existing infrastructure, but adding on to the infrastructure itself and improving upon it, and having a snowball-like effect to help reduce the carbon footprint of each individual.
Alright. So I think we've come to a divided conclusion between all of the different ways we can reduce global warming. Well, that's all for our discussion today.
So that's all for our discussion today. Thanks for watching our video and goodbye.